Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics round review, the first one of 2025. Round one is in the books, and it's good to have footy back and fantasy back, but there will be a lot of people, and myself partly included, that the ups and downs of fantasy are back, unfortunately, but that we take the good with the bad. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. For those listening back on the pod, it is Sunday, the 16th of March, after the conclusion of round one. And for those listening on YouTube Live, make sure you guys leave any questions or players you'd like discussed in the live chat, because we will be getting to plenty of those later on. A slightly tweak to the game-by-game format. Hopefully you guys like it. We'll get through the games quicker and answer a few more of your questions. Joining me, as always, is my fellow co-host and AFL Fantasy Fanatic. It is Jordox. Jordox, mate, how are you? How did the weekend go? We'll get to scores and ranks shortly, but how was your weekend in general?
Yeah, good day, mate. Yeah, it's finally here. Hey, what a long preseason it was, and now round one's come and gone. And I don't know about you, but I'm knackered. That was a roller coaster. Thursday, Friday, I was very down in the dumps. But then as the weekend rolled on, things picked up. So, yeah, looking forward to chatting about it.
Yeah, and I know this is a fantasy podcast, but go the bloody Crows, mate. As I said to you pre-pod, I've already booked the tickets. I've already booked the tickets to September. So, seriously.
It was good to see. It was good to see.
Exactly right. But joining us is a very special guest, making his pod debut. You'll know him over Twitter as a legend that has been getting a lot of the preseason notes for Freo and even West Coast as well. Good mates with Jep and friend of ours as well from Perth. It is Taezer. Taezer, mate, welcome. Making your pod debut,
Howdy.
mate. How was your weekend?
Thank you. It was a good weekend. Team did okay. And, it was a good one. Lots of good footy. Good to be back.
Exactly right. Well, I saw you told me you ranked pre-pod, so we'll get stuck into obviously you first being the guest. Mate, how did you go? How was your score, and what is your overall rank at the moment? Because normally we ask for overall rank and round rank, but round rank and overall rank is the same for this week. So, mate, let us know how you went.
Sitting at 962 with an overall score of 2172. It's probably the first opening round that I've actually been okay and haven't ruined my team in the starting picks by going to left field. I think last year I had Buderick. The year before I had Cherry. So it's nice to not have someone on field score in the 20s in the first round. But yeah, going all right. I've faded some popular players, so it hasn't burnt me yet. We'll see how we go as things progress.
Exactly right, mate. No, that's a cracking start. I wish I was in a 3-digit rank, but we'll get to mine. But no surprise, it's a 5-digit rank, as it always is in round one. Jordox, mate, how did you go? What was your score, and what's your current rank?
Yeah, 5 digits for me. So overall is 22,971. It came up with the 2,064, which, the amount of silliness that I did in the lead up, that's probably more than I deserve. So I'll take that and build on it. And, it's only up from here.
Yes, exactly right, mate. And for all those people that had a bad round as well, I've had to try and remind myself of this as well. It's one round. We still have another 23 to go. So hang in there. One bad round does not make a bad season. So I think from my score, George, I was able to pip you by 1 point. So 2065. That has me at an overall rank of 22,786. As I said, it would be nice for once to have a good rank post round one. So a bit up and down, and we'll get to the plus and minus threes now. But just want to shout out as well, a friend of the show, was a bit quiet last year, but runner-up from 2023 to Matt Mottram, Shuckers, James, currently 18th overall post round one. And looking at his team, he's got pretty much the team that I would love to have at this moment. So shout out to James Shuckers there, mate. Very, very good start. And we'll see if you can repeat or even go better than what you did in 2023, mate. So there you go. But we'll get to the plus and minus three. So Taezer, we'll start off with your plus and minus three, mate. Who gets those for you in round one?
Oh, I think mine would have to go to Sam de Koning from Geelong, coming in with a big 124 on debut. And I saw the role in the preseason. I was happy with it. A little bit concerned about the scoring, but backed it in knowing that, unfortunately, my Fremantle Dockers are just pretty soft in that area. And, they ran over the top of him, and he got a really good big score on to kick things off for me.
Yeah, no, beautiful, mate. -3 for you?
Or from my side, it'd probably have to go to myself just for not nailing those rookie picks. Just I had Lindsay in my side during the week, and by going for Sam Taylor, I shuffled things around and brought Hasty in, so I missed out on Xavier Lindsay, who would have been on field, and Davidson in my forward line. So just not getting the rookies right probably could have got me an extra 100 points almost on field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I tell you what, my head was wobbling at quarter time of the Saints game when Hasty 31. I thought, oh, brilliant! I've dodged one here. I was able to get a good score, but 9 points in 2 quarters, and then subbed out, which was disappointing. So, Jordox, mate, your plus and -3 from the round.
Well, I'm loving this from Taezer already. He's taken my +3 and my -3. I was going to go Sam de Koning. And my -3 was going to be a big uppercut to myself. So I'll get into that in a minute. So picking out a different +3, I tell you what a roller coaster, 72 hours it was for Levi Ashcroft in the context of fantasy. So we had the news sort of late in the week. He's a sub. I think most of us thought, okay, let's jump. There's so many other kids we could have. And then 20 minutes before final teams, I think it was Mitch Cleary's tweet, told us there was going to be a change. Ashcroft won't be the sub. And then everyone was not scrambling, but looking, how can I get him? How can I get him? Some got lucky, some didn't. And I ended up trading out Langford, who would then become the sub today, and brought Levi in, put him on the field, and he scored me 84 points. So brilliant. Well done. I'm glad I got him. And what a start to what's going to be a very long and successful fantasy career, I would have thought.
Yep.
-3 would be myself, because, we learn lessons, don't we? No, we don't. We have lessons imparted on us. We don't learn them, though. And I did too much shifting of my side across opening round and then the days leading in, and there were just so many picks I wish I didn't do. But I guess the biggest one was, those who followed along my my weird preseason journey would know my rucks were never settled. But there was one I was happy with, and it was Jordan Sweet, and I got rid of him for Lloyd Meek. I got seduced by his opening round score, cost me 30 points. But at the end of the day, I should have just had de Koning there. So I costed myself 70 points in that spot. So, I was pretty miserable Friday night.
Yeah, unfortunate, mate. Fantasy. I told you, I gave you a ban. I said to you, stop changing your team, leave it alone. So, did you mention your other?
Didn't stop though.
Did you mention your other Friday night change as well?
Yeah. So Thursday night, I had like a Sam Walsh, a couple of guys I thought would be different, try and give me the edge, and didn't work. So Friday I doubled down, and 5 minutes before the bounce, I swapped Garcia out for Ben Hobbs, because I just thought no one's talking about him. He was good in that cracky game the other week. He had CBAs. He scored really well. And once he wasn't the sub, I put him in. But he played forward. But he only lost out to Garcia by 2 points. So.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, but you weren't I know you weren't very happy on Friday, so,
No,
oh mate,
no.
My plus and -3, my +3, I'm going to give it to Joel Frazier, the first ever player that will get defender, midfield, ruck, and forward eligibility, because he played in all 4 positions on Saturday night, in typical Bevo fashion as well. I don't think we're really surprised at this point, but when I saw Frazier starting in defence, then he went into the midfield, then he was the backup ruck to when English was on the bench, and then he kicked a goal and drifted forward for like a couple of minutes. I was just it was quite baffling, but he still managed 103 points and was fantastic. And not starting to Koning and having him instead, only losing out by 21 points from starting one of them, I'm pretty happy with. So, yeah, Joel Frazier, definitely +3 for me. -3, I think it's got to go to Harry Perryman. 49 points is just not acceptable, unfortunately. I know that apparently he was tagging Rosie at times as well. Apparently lined up a halfback. I didn't watch a lot of this game. I watched the other game, doing the watch along on YouTube for the Bulldogs North Melbourne game. So, but yeah, just hearing that he wasn't scoring well. He had a good third quarter, but outside that, I think he got like 22 points the remaining 3 quarters outside of that. So not great. I'm sure we'll chat about him when we get to the Collingwood game as well there. So they're the plus and -3s. Moving to the Content Creators Cup. So round 1 is in the books for all of the content creators out there. So a few of the results with Jaiden getting the job done over Luke from the Ball Boys, 21-20 to Luke's 20-33. Louis going down to newcomer DT Lemon by 13 points, 21-32 to 21-45. Jordox getting the job done over Holmesy there, 20-64 to 20-53. MJ getting the win over Fry, 21-21 to 20-56. DC got the job done over me in back to my 2023 form of coming up against the highest scoring coach in the Content Creators Cup, which was DC and DT Lemon, 21-45 to 20-65. Tim went down to Jeppa, 20-57 to 21-17. Jake, 20-47 to Hef's 21-19. Harmy's 20-57 to the 20th coach, the Content Creators Cup, winner of the comp there. Jonathan, he was 20-81 there, so getting a nice win there. Nathan, 21-09, going down to Mini Monk, 21-25. And the final one there, Mitch, unfortunately, the reigning sort of overall ranked coach, him and Luke, unfortunately, were the 2 lowest ranked coaches of the round, 20-37, defeated by Sanch, 20-71. So I won't go through all the results. I just thought round 1, thought people might be interested to see what the content creators scored. We'll just go through like the ladder moving forward. I just thought people might be interested with the results from round 1. So after that, we will move now to the games with all of the action starting on Thursday night. And as I said, a little bit of a tweak. What we'll do instead of going through all the scores, because at the end of the day, we've all seen the scores. We all know the scores of the players. So I thought we'll just go through one player each round, and we'll get through it quicker, and then we can answer more of your questions at the end. So, but we've got a little bit something special, though, because Taezer has been able to have a good look at the CBA analysis in the midfield. So he's brought that extra bit to the podcast, which is great. So he'll talk about a player and the midfield, and then me and Jordox will talk about a player each game. So Taezer, we'll start off with the Richmond Carlton game and your player, and then obviously the midfield analysis there.
Yeah, I'd probably say my players going to be Chera, because it's tied in with that midfield mix at Carlton. So both sides had a really tight midfield rotation, and it was good for players like Chera, Taranto on the Tiger side, Hewitt and Cripps. So they had a really tight rotation with Walsh dropping out of it. So Walsh is probably the other one I wanted to touch on, because he only scored an 84 and appearing at only 50% of the CBAs. So he was rolling up from that half-forward flank, and definitely watch if that continues to happen, because I think Carlton really missed him around the ball. And if they can't find a way to get him kind of closer around it in this role, then surely they're going to change that mix. And who knows, maybe we can get DPP first.
Exactly. The question with Chera is that, so Doherty came on the last quarter and looked amazing. 56 points in the last quarter was incredible. The one thing I noticed is Chera went to half back, and it was quite interesting that he went to half back and then he got stuck on the bench as well. With the fact that Walsh also didn't have many CBAs, would you still be happy to trade into a guy like an Adam Chera, or do you think maybe with Walsh an increase, Doherty maybe I can't imagine he's a sub again after the performance he had as well, and a few Carlton players, not naming anyone, Lockie Cowan. What are your thoughts about Adam Chera as an option?
Yeah, so he's not in my side, and partly that was just because I wanted to see the Carlton mix. Now, funnily enough, if I'd seen this kind of mix pre-match, or if I'd known this was the way I was going to play out, I probably would have had him in my side. But I think what you're saying is really valid, that there's only other guys that are going to really step up into this. I don't think Doc stays out of the side for long, and Walsh needs to get around the ball more. So if you have him in your side, I think you'd definitely take the win and you'd continue to hold. I'd be hesitant to trade into him. I mean, I'm probably going to be making a trade in the midfield either this round or next round, and he's probably not the one I'm looking to jump on.
Yeah, I think I agree. Jordox, your player, we just mentioned him, Sam Doherty.
Yeah, just thought he was worth the mention. I mean, I think a few were interested to see he was named as a sub, and then we saw a little bit of that over the weekend with Pendlebury named the Collingwood sub. We saw Tex Walker subbed out. I think it was a pretty hot weekend, and for the early rounds anyway, I think we're going to see a bit of that. But I don't think Carlton will do that with Doherty again. I almost wonder if they were playing someone other than Richmond, they would have done it. I don't know. But he came in and, as you said, scored, 53 points, was it? In the last, where is he?
56 from
Wooshka.
Just 27% time on ground, so almost 2 points a minute.
It's absurd. Yeah. And he was in the CBAs in that last quarter. So I guess my point around him is he'll drop in price, and then in a few weeks he could be one to target if he's getting 4 quarters, because clearly he's going to score pretty well in that role.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly right. He's definitely one to be watching. Now, the roller coaster of the week for me was Ollie Hollands. And anyone that tuned into the watch along that I had on Thursday night will know this. 72 points is obviously not great. Positive is that he had 10 points over his value of what he was priced at of 62. And the fact that Carlton, I don't think they could have really played any worse than what they did. Lockie Cowan is the main one, but Mitch McGovern, Jacob Wiedering, I'm sure everyone noticed this if you're an Ollie Hollands owner. The amount of times that those defenders got the ball and slammed it on their boot within 2 seconds of getting the ball, not being able to handle the pressure was mind-boggling. There was like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times that a +6 was on offer for Hollands, and they decided to just bang it forward, thinking that Charlie Curnow was still on the team, which he wasn't. So I really don't understand what that Carlton defense is doing. I would be shocked if Lockie Cowan isn't dropped after that performance, because he did turn it over pretty much every disposal he got. But who knows? He's a young player. But the positive from Ollie Hollands is the fact that I think that he probably couldn't have really played much worse in terms of being unlucky, but he was still able to get to 72. So I'm thinking that Carlton will try and hit these little kicks a little bit better than what they were doing on Thursday night, and that could lead to some Hollands +6s and more touches, because he had the role. He looked all right when he had the ball. So I think we got some other issues to deal with. I don't know what you boys think, if you guys want to comment on it, but I think that Hollands, I'm more bullish on him scoring better in other games, and I think that Carlton will get better. Do you boys agree?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of I won't say overreaction, because I'm not a Hollands owner and I know how much we react to things in the game, but I think it was just his halftime score that scared the crap out of everyone. If you flipped his halves around and he was on high 40s at halftime and then finished on 72, we're probably not talking about it as much. But because he only scored 8 points in the second quarter, he was on 25 at halftime, I think people were panicking. The role was okay. It wasn't a great night for Carlton all up. I think for the price you pay for him, and the plan is that he gets defender status, I think he's fine. I mean, I paid a bucket load more for Sam Walsh, and he only outscored him by 12 points. So it wasn't that bad.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. And I'd just say, just tying those two players together, yours Doherty and Holland, is that I think there's a good chance Doherty actually moves into that back line to calm things down. Carlton were just being ridiculously fumbly and bad decisions in defence, turning the ball over. I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Doherty go behind the ball, give him a bit of a cool head, and actually start playing the ball from the back line.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I noticed they were rushed.
That's a really good point. And we talked about that in pre-season when Newman went down. We thought it would be Doherty. Yeah. So, good point.
Yeah, exactly right. So, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Tom de Koning as well. 132, did everything that we could have hoped for more. So
We've talked about the game.
Could I just get one more player, because I think he'll be one that's really targeted by coaches, and that's Sam Layla.
Yep.
And I think Layla's got a good score, and it may still be a really good play to get him in and just ride the cash rise. But I think with his role, he was stuck forward for most of the game. To only 2 CBAs, even though that was when the game was on the line right in the last quarter. But Richmond only got 40 inside 50s. They only got something like 18 marks or something like that in the forward half. So I just don't see how he's going to score that kind of score every week from that score build. Like he finished his goals. He was really good, but I wouldn't chase that, and I probably wouldn't feel comfortable having him on field, which I think when the prices come out, he's going to be 370 or something like that, which is you're going to need to be comfortable with on field to put him in your side, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know about you guys, but there was scary similarities to a Dusty, to a Sam Lawler. So that's one thing Richmond fans, I'm sure, are going to be frothing at. Yeah, exactly. So if he can be half the player that Dusty is, Richmond have got a star on their hands. So yeah, definitely one to be watching. Moving over to the Friday night game, Hawthorn and Essendon. So not a huge fantasy relevant game in terms of players owned, but Taezer, one of the players that you're going to be chatting about, was very, very popular in our midfields.
Yeah, Will Day. I noticed before the game that Will Day got up to, I believe it was 56% owned, which was just crazy considering earlier in the season, he was really quite almost a unique at times, like I think 17% at one stage, but I guess that's what the opening round score is going to do. So he got the 77. He was double tagged by Redmond and Durham, who both had him at different stages. But he was still leading CBA getter for a tight 4-man rotation at Hawthorn. So they really kept it a small group, as opposed to Essendon, who had quite a few players rolling through there, which I'm guessing is because they're trying to get the mix right to, make it competitive. With Will Day, assessing whether or not he's been a good pick, it's going to be great for cash gen. I'm not sure what it's going to look like when the price when lockout lifts, but I think the play is going to be to hold him for a week and see how he goes against Carlton. Probably wouldn't be trading into him if you didn't already start him. But I would a lot rest on next week, because if he gets tagged by Hewitt and then goes into games versus Bedford, then has a bye when he's not going to score, and then he's going to go play Port, who have Willem Drew tagging, it might just be worth getting off him if he can't do the job against Carlton and getting tagged by Hewitt.
Yeah, very, very good point. It's saying on the website that he scored 73, go up by about 76.6K roughly. So he'll probably go up maybe, around 75 to 80K. Obviously, great cash gen. And I think I agree that I think there's probably other couple of players that you could probably trade, but there might be teams out there that say, no, I want to trade him. And we've got some other players around that price I'm sure we'll be chatting about as well. But no, it's a good point. I think that the only concern was that he had 31 points in the first quarter and had 46 points in the remaining 3. But hopefully he can go okay and doesn't get a tag this week, because I think a few people were eyeing off that round 3 game and looking at trading him in round 3. Jordox, your player, unfortunately, from a bad point of view.
Yeah, and it's a tough one because he was 600K, but Elijah Sardis let a lot of people down. I guess the thing I'd say about him is I know it's hard to stomach a score like that because we're all hoping for the big ones, but he is priced at 600, and the role was good. He had plenty of CBAs. The issue was his time on ground. So he had 57% time on ground and scored 56. So, geez, if he can get up to 60, 70% time on ground, his scoring's going to go up. I just think he's still so young. I think Essendon like him in that role, and I don't think he's going to be dropped or anything. So I don't know. If you can move him on, I'm sure most will be looking to do it. But if you've got other things to deal with, I just wouldn't be surprised if he bounces back this week.
Yeah. Jordox, did you have him in your side?
Not in AF. I have him in DT, but he's substantially cheaper in that one. So
yeah, okay.
yeah,
I just
easier
I wonder
for
if
me to say.
I wonder if his time on ground was maybe a sign of that he wasn't really integral to that side. The way I kind of read it is that if they hadn't have lost Ridley at halftime, I thought there was a good chance he would have been subbed out. Like he was hack kicking it out. You know, a lot of the things that have been said about him in the preseason, and I think there's a high likelihood that he could have got the sub there. So
it was a tough game. I mean, the Hawks were hot. I don't know. I reckon it'd be silly of them to do that. He had. I know his disposal's not great, but I watched him in the preseason, and his ability to win the clearance from the centre bounce is really good. And yeah, I guess we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely something to watch. It was interesting that Sardis had 57% game time. Then you also had obviously Nick Bryan 63%, and even Ben Hobbs 64%. There another player had low game time as well, which I'll chat about in 2 seconds. But we do have a super chat from Tim. He's asking here, who would you trade out of Garcia, Perryman, Taylor, and Hasty? So, Taezer, if you had to sort of rank those in terms of sort of trade outs, Garcia, Perryman, Taylor, and Hasty, how would you rank them?
Oh, I'd probably be trading Hasty if he's not named, and if you've got a little bit of cash and you can get him up to one of the rookies that really popped. Yeah, probably him. Perryman's also on the chopping block for me, so don't know. Yeah, it's tough. All of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is like where I'm wanting to put my FPL hat on, Fantasy Premier League, for those playing along at home. Wanting to play a wild card. If anyone doesn't know how to play that format, you can have a week where you play a wild card and you can make unlimited transfers. I'd love to be able to do that for this week because there's a fair few players I want to have out of my side. Player I want to chat about, shout out to DC from Hat Chat. This is his boy, so I'm not going to take any credit whatsoever. But Jai Caldwell was absolutely fantastic. I drafted him in a number of leagues as like my M3, M4, and by golly, did he deliver 146 points from only 75% game time as well. 36 touches, 4 marks, 11 tackles, kicked a goal as well. If it wasn't for his early buy in round 4, I'd be saying this guy is a good trade in target. But just with that round 4 buy, it makes it really difficult to bring him in. Put him on your watch list, though, because he could be someone that we are looking at. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes at 105 plus. That's what he did last year in the role that he's got. I think even when Parrish comes back, I think Caldwell is clearly going to be one of the top 2 midfielders there. And he had the most CBAs, and Merritt was actually down at one. He was the 4th midfielder, or equal 4, sorry, behind Caldwell, Sardis. Sorry, equal 3rd. Sorry, not equal 4. Equal 3rd with Durham on 18. So it was bit of a mixture of midfielders in there, but Jai Caldwell was the clear number 1. I think he'll be a definite clear top 2 for the rest of the season. So I really did like his game. Moving across to Geelong and Fremantle. So Taezer, obviously, we'll be starting with your player, and you mentioned this guy with your +3, but SDK was obviously very, very good.
Yeah, SDK was great. For those who don't know, Freo Dockers on my side, and that was embarrassing. It was a terrible performance in all lines. I don't think we're going to be that bad all season, but who knows? They find new ways to surprise me all the time. SDK had a great game in the ruck. He kind of neutralised, even though there were times where Luke Jackson really kind of looked good and got on top. But SDK did really well. Massive score build, a lot of marks. But probably the biggest thing that I would flag here is it's a great score, and everyone's going to go chasing him because of his price. But he only had about 60% of the ruck contests, with Blitzarves having the other 40%. And I think against other ruckmen, so he's got a fairly easy game in round 2 against Harry Boyd from the Saints, and I can see him going big again. But he's going to play Oscar McInerney in round 3 and then into Max Gawn in round 4. So if you're going to jump, this is the week to do it. You don't want to have 2 weeks of data to jump on board. Otherwise, just fade him would be my name. My guess on this.
Yeah, and as you say though, like people are going to look at the CBAs and go, SDK had 28 compared to a Blitzarves who only had 6. But I think so. JS in our group chat as well. Obviously, you're saying there of how much he had, but JS said that he had only attended 44 of a possible 108 ruck contest from this game. So that's a big flag for me. And we do see in round one that we do see some of these players score big. I think that the positive with an SDK is the fact that he's in a defensive line that we were looking for value. He's an easy switch for if you started a Sam Taylor at D6 or on the bench. It's not going to be, I think that they'll be similarly priced. Maybe Taylor could be slightly more expensive with the big cash jump. But yeah, I think I agree. Jordox, are you with SDK before we move on to your player? Is SDK someone that you'd be targeting? Or do you think that with the tough run coming up, that stat about the ruck contest and that he didn't have, I guess, the bulk share, even though the CBAs were there. What are your thoughts with SDK?
Yeah, well, I have him, so I was very happy. It's going to be hard because you're chasing that round one score. But I think if you can get on, I think the price is still going to go up over the next few weeks, and then we'll see what they do with it. But I don't know. I look at DeConning and people were pretty down on him in the preseason because he didn't score well in that one preseason game. But the thing is, like last year, he got thrown into the ruck and looked out of his element. But this year, he's been training as a ruck, and I thought that showed. He looked like a much better ruckman on the weekend. I know it was against Reedy and Jackson, but you still got to perform. And I see him as being like a Tim English type of ruck in a fantasy sense. So I'm not too worried if he's not getting a heap of hit outs as long as he's around the ball. And if he's having the majority of the CBAs, I think that's going to bode pretty well. It was an interesting split, though, the rucks, because it looked like Blitzarve did a bunch around the ground and then Neil did a bunch probably in the forward half. So it really did seem like DeConning took the centre bounces and then just floated around, maybe went and helped out in the back line a little bit.
Yeah, the only 25 disposals and a lot of a lot of intercept possessions around the ground as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess the thing I would do worry slightly with those matchups coming up with a McInerney and a Gawn is that they're the two sort of matchups that I wouldn't be shocked if like a Reece Stanley just popped his head in for one of those games, or if not both, just with the tough matchups, particularly if it's McInerney and Fort playing in the same team. So just a flag, but I think he's still a good target nonetheless. The cash gen's going to be there. You just ride that, and if worst case scenario, it's best 18, you can trade him out if that was to happen anyway. Jordox, moving on to your player, another player that performed very well.
Oh, yeah. What a slam dunk pick this would have been if you got him. I think 4% started Mitch Nevitt. Quiet start, but warmed into the game. Fairly low time on ground and still scored. Where did he land? He scored the ton. So lots of tackles. It just looked good. Looked like he was going to get his opportunity. So for those that saw that in preseason and jumped, you'll be laughing. And he sits around that price of your O'Driscolls and those sorts of guys. So I like him. I really like that his scoring was really strong when Freo were challenging a little bit in the third. Yeah. He had a really big second half, and then obviously joined in the free for all in the last quarter.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he was the third midfielder in. They had a fairly tight sort of 4 to 5, but there was a few guys that rolled in there for a few. But yeah, it was seemed to be Atkins, Holmes, and Nevitt were the main guys. Tom Stewart in there for a fair few, and then you had like Bailey Smiths and Dangers and stuff like that popping in there as well. So I think Nevitt, I'd be pretty happy to jump on. I think a pretty popular trade will be Garcia to Nevitt. I'm pretty sure if people can make that work with DPPs. Mine, I won't spend too long on this guy, but I thought I'd be picking this guy here, Bailey Smith. I know there were a few people that were a little bit concerned sort of just with like the Geelong and the limited preseason, well, like in terms of only playing the one preseason game and the Geelong sort of rumours that he won't play a heap of midfield and be managing him. But he's priced at 58. I think we have to remember that as well. Even if he goes 80, 85, it's still solid. But the fact that we got a 126 and he looked fantastic, 32 disposals, just looked great. 5 marks, 5 tackles, kicked a goal. I was really happy when he kicked that goal as well. I thought that was the cherry on top for Geelong in that game as well. And yeah, if you don't have him, if you're one of the 30% people, he'd be definite high priority if you don't have him. But I'm sure a lot of you already do. And we'll move on to the next game. as well, which was Sydney and Brisbane. And Taezer, you got a couple of brothers that you want to be chatting about.
Yeah, just first thing is the Ashcrofts. Levi, plain and simple, 84 points. He looked thirsty. He was starting off on the half-forward flank and just roaming up the ground to get the ball. And in a pretty tough game where there wasn't a lot of players scoring really well, he did really well. So I think he's just plain and simple. If you missed the news that he wasn't the sub or anything like that, if you stayed away or couldn't get him on the ground, make sure he's in the side and on your field next week.
Yeah, I think we'll do our trade targets after before we finish, but I dare say he's the number one for probably a lot of people. I'm really annoyed that I don't have him on my side, and I've got to bring him in. Jordox, your player.
Oh, sorry. Just the other one was Will Ashcroft, and I wanted to include him just because he's pretty highly owned, and that is he had a poor score. He only got a 66, which I think is low for him. You usually get a better score for him. However, the one thing I'd say about it is the CBA mix for the Lions was a tight 3. So Neil, McCluggage, and Dunkley all getting about 75%. And then Will Ashcroft only got about 50%. And if it's going to continue, like it might fluctuate from week to week, but if he's going to be that fourth banana, and they're going to have a tight group and then share the other CBAs around, I just think it's going to be tough for him to go more than 95, which is probably what he needs to do to be a good pick at that price. So maybe not urgent trade out, but I would want to be making plans otherwise.
Yep. No, very, very good point there. Jordox, your player, halfback that a lot of us have got.
Actually, I'm going to change it. I'm going to go from Roberts. I was going to chat about Roberts. I didn't have much to say other than, he didn't score as well as an opening round, but his scoring's fine. His role's good. If you picked him,
not 15.
Still happy with it. Not 15.
Not 15. I just the amount of times the umpire said not 15 when he got the ball, he probably could have added 3 marks to his score.
Oh, that's good. So I did see a second of this game, so that makes more sense. You threw me there, Taze. No, I want to talk about the sub that came on, Bice. So he's from the draft we just had, isn't he?
Looked
but he's
almost
a mature age.
Almost looked like a clone of Nick Blakey in a way, like sort of real quick, almost like the head. As Zave, I just had the headless chook back there, like another one they can add there. So he's a guy that I wouldn't be shocked if he got some more game time heading forward.
Well, he's 24. He's rookie priced, obviously, and came on just before 3/4 time and put on 35 points in just over a quarter, including taking a few kick-ins. So I read somewhere, I don't know if it was a Sydney fan or something, but just that he'll play every game, I reckon. So, yeah, could be one to get in the back line if you're looking for a cash cow.
Yep, exactly. And also, he plays next week, then he's got the bye. So if he gets a full game next week, perfect downgrade option in round 4 if that's the case. Josh Dunkley for me was fantastic. 130 points, did what he always does. Fills all the stat lines, 27 touches, 5 marks, 10 tackles, and also kicked a goal in that. He was great. The only slight flag I would raise is the fact that every other Brisbane midfielder didn't score very well. So you look at Will Ashcroft only with a 66, Hugh McCluggage with a 60, and then you also had Lachie Neale, who got tagged by James Jordan. That's going to be something that we're going to be scared of every time Sydney come up against one of our fantasy relevant players, because he's obviously a very, very good tagger. So Dunkley did take all the points. That's obviously the flag, but we know he's a jet. We know how good he's going to be. So he'll definitely be in our sides, I think, at some point in the season. Moving to the 2 Saturday night games. So the Bulldogs and North Melbourne first up. And Taezer, actually, hang on. Sorry, I was reading the wrong game. Taezer, you want to chat about a forward that was very, very popular for us?
Yeah, Riley Sanders. So I faded Riley Sanders, and I, rather than sounding like Nostradamus, I basically picked that he was only going to be 3rd or 4th in the CBAs based on kind of what I figured their mix was going to look like, and then they had Treloar and Bond going to be coming back into that side. So he scored a 72, and he was probably the 3rd or 4th banana, so to speak, in the first half. But it looked like Bevo actually must have noticed that he wasn't having the impact, wasn't getting what he wanted out of him. And in that second half, moved Fraser in there, and Sanders. I think Sanders had 2 CBAs from halftime, so I'd find that really concerning. And I think there's talk that Treloar could be back as soon as round 2 or 3, and then Bont 5 or 6. So if you're on him, you might have another week to be able to ride him if he's lower on your priority list, and he's probably going to be good to score at least his break even. But, I'd be making plans to get off him.
Yeah, no, very good flag. I noticed the exact same thing. Collingwood next week is I guess a decent enough matchup, but yeah, definitely a flag that we need to be thinking about. Jordox, your player. I was very annoyed watching this. I didn't have him, but he was very, very good.
Yeah, I think I said it on one of the pods in the lead up to round 1. I said this guy's going to be huge. He's going to break out, and we're all going to say, "Wish I had him." And I even said, "But I won't start him because I'm an idiot." So Tommy Powell, he's ready. And look, I didn't see this game. I was over at the G, sweating my ass off. But yeah. No surprises. He's looking like the one that's going to really explode this year. He was 800, I think, 800K. And, yeah, I think I'll be looking at him this week for sure.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And I was kicking myself that I didn't have him in my side. And Joel Fraser is my player. He was very, very good. 103 points, as I mentioned, played across all the positions and got some midfield time. I don't see that midfield. He looked good in the midfield when he was there. I do think he's going to be more that halfback. But if he's got a halfback / mid role, we're talking about guys like he's not Jack Sinclair, but guys like that have got that sort of role, and they're very fantasy friendly. So I think that he's a very good option. I don't know what you guys think. If people didn't have Fraser and SDK, I feel like I might prefer Fraser out of the two with the role. I don't know if you guys would agree with that. Taezer, would you agree with that? Would you rather Fraser over SDK?
I definitely agree with that. So Fraser was playing halfback, and then they moved him. He was matching up with LDU a fair bit. So I think they just trust him. Like it just seems he had high game time. That second half, I think it was 3rd for the CBAs, and they were kicking it to him. He was in the contest. I think he's pretty highly thought of there. And other than being moved from one positive role as a distributing halfback to someone in the guts getting the ball, I'd be pretty comfortable trading into Fraser.
Where did he play in the first half, guys?
Mostly it was halfback. Yeah, it was the second half that he moved into a bit more of the midfield. And I'm looking at his scores. He scored 33 points in the third quarter and then 40 points in the last, including 100% TOG in the last quarter. So, that's
look,
big.
If you had a guarantee that would be his role, but I guess at the Bulldogs, it's so hard to know. I don't know if I'd be that confident on him.
I feel like if he's still playing halfback, though, he still looked decent back there. He got a bit of the ball. Obviously, it was the second half when he went better, but and as
I wouldn't be jumping onto him thinking, "Oh, we've got it. He's got a midfield spot now." Yeah.
Agreed.
No.
Yeah, agreed. And as Elizanos was saying there as well, Fraser in the second quarter was rucking, which was definitely interesting to watch him going up against the Big X, and the Big X was definitely taking advantage of that. And shout out, I got to shout him out as well. Shout out to the Big X. Tristan Sherry got to 129 with a 47-point last quarter, and that was with 0 tackles. And the big man was cramping as well, and he still pushed through and did what we need him to do. So 129 points, very happy. Annoyed that he got a tackle taken away late to mean it wasn't a 130, but happy nonetheless.
I don't have him, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, at least that for you, Taezer, if you don't own him, and for the people that don't own him out there, the good matchups out the way, the tough matchups are ahead. I'm hopeful, though, that he can still go pretty solid in those tougher matchups, but we will see over the next few weeks. Moving to that game, Jordox, that you mentioned that you're at, Collingwood and Port Adelaide at the G, and a very one-sided game here. But Taezer, you want to chat about Darcy Cameron?
Yeah, just flag, because I know a few people jumped on Darcy Cameron when they saw his great opening round score and the low break even as maybe a bit of a cash play. So he scored the 69, which is pretty average when you see some of the other scores that were around. But his share of ruck contests went from about 80% against GWS to about 65% versus Port. So they were really, and this is what Collingwood were doing in the first half of last year when they were kind of teaming him up with big Mason Cox. And it was pretty much all the way through the match that he had 65. It wasn't like Collingwood got on top, so they decided to rest him. It was the whole way through, clearly in the game plan, that they wanted Stay to probably have about 30% of the ruck. And honestly, like, if it's going to continue like that, you don't want to ride that any longer, because it's going to be really hard to build big scores.
Yep, agreed. And I think that I heard that Mason Cox is back in training and ready to come back. So whether he comes back into the team, obviously we'll see, but that would be another flag if you do have him. So it could be a bit of a get out of jail in round 3 when he's on his bye. Jordox, we'll move on to the other side of this contest, and Jordan Sweet, who you were keen on.
Oh, yeah. So annoyed. I just was so happy with him as just a placeholder until a few, a month or two into the season. Anyway, he looked great. He, I was there. I saw him up close, albeit from level 4. But you know what I mean. He looked. He doesn't look like a guy that's going to lose his spot to Soldo anytime soon. His scoring slowed as the game went on, but for a hot bloody night in a game they nearly lost by 100 points, I thought he really stood up. And he has Richmond this week, and we saw what DeConning did against Nank. So, yeah, I wish I had him.
Oh, I think you wish you had Carlton Ruck. I reckon that's who you reckon you wish you had.
No. Because who needs TDK when you got SDK? You know what I'm saying?
My player I was really impressed with. Again, I didn't get to watch much any of this game, but Connor Rozee, 112 points. Hearing the chat sort of in the first quarter or two of the other, when I was watching the other game, people were saying that he wasn't looking 100%. He was looking a little bit sort of like not himself. And I was thinking, here we go, Connor Rozee. This is what we've seen this story before, 17 points at quarter time, and wasn't looking great. But from that point on, he was great. Had 35 points, 39 points, and then finished off with 21 points. So he was great. And that was considering he didn't have many marks or tackles. So in another night when he lists those up, potentially against Richmond this week coming up, I'm sure Port will be breathing fire, trying to respond after that one. Rosie could have a big score coming up here. And same could be said for Horn Francis, who was getting tagged by Perryman and Sidebottom. Still managed 82 with 25 touches. Just the 1 mark and 1 tackle was the reason that he didn't break the ton in that game. Moving on to the Sunday games, as we said, if you do have any questions or players you want to discuss, we'll probably have time for maybe 5-10 minutes for questions after that. So if you want anyone to discuss that we haven't chatted about, put them in the live chat and we'll get to that shortly. But this podcast for the season is sponsored by good friends at Game Day Squad. So if you guys don't know what Game Day Squad is, it is another AFL Fantasy platform, and it's got all other games on there as well. But AFL Fantasy on there, it brings the best of FIFA Ultimate Team and opening footy packs as a kid in together, along with AFL Fantasy. I'm sure you guys have heard me say that before as well. But if you guys sign up using my code BAILSDT, you get 3 free packs at sign up and a value of $21. So $21 for free, and it's another fantasy platform. So if you love fantasy as much as I do, then head over to Game Day Squad and get signed up. You can still win cash prizes even if you've missed round 1, because there's cash prizes every single week of the season. Moving over to the game of the week, or for me and Jordox anyway, Adelaide and St Kilda. We're very, very happy with this one. But Taezer, wanted to chat about the Crows midfield and focusing on James Peatling.
Yeah, so James Peatling is pretty popular, and he probably dropped a bit of popularity in the last practice game, and it was flagged that he could be the 4th or the 5th mid, and that played out. So he only scored a 72, and 72 sounds like that's pretty good. It's over his break even, but he was actually the 7th worst scorer in the Crows side. So that's how much they beat up on St Kilda. He had low TOG. He only played 68% time on ground, and most of his CBAs were actually in the first 3 quarters before Draper came in, because he only had a couple after Draper came on the ground, and yeah, so if you had him in your side, again, he's one of those ones that you could probably afford to ride for a week or two, but as soon as you got the opportunity to move off him, I would, because the role's not there and he's not going to be a 85, 90 averaging player.
Yeah, and I see you mentioned notes here as well, Taezer, the 68% TOG as well was, slightly there. And then only the 2 CBAs after Sid Draper coming on as well. So, yeah, that's something to be watching out for and someone that I was still keen on, but I was thinking as the 4th or 5th mid, we know that there aren't many players in that can score high enough. And he's priced at low 60s, but, yeah, hopefully he can put up a bigger score in the future weeks and can maybe be held for a bit longer. Jordox, you're chatting about one of my boys. So what do you want to chat about with him?
I just think the talk of Rory Laird's fantasy days being over were premature. I mean, we all kind of knew that he was out of the midfield and that halfback role was coming back. But that's a role he scored very well in the past. And he looked good today. They used him a lot. And defender status is coming his way in round 6. I know he's not cheap or anything, but yeah, I don't know. I think keep an eye on him the next few weeks. I think he's in for a big one.
Yeah. And bordering on slander, by the way. I know he's my boy and I'm going to stand up for him, but come on. And even Crows fans saying he shouldn't be best 22. Oh, I don't get that.
Give me a spell.
Yeah. Exactly. So exactly right. So anyway. He is best 22 and he was very, very good. Along with, no surprise, I'm talking about this man, Jordan Dawson, 126 points. He was fantastic. And that was including a tag by Marcus Windhager for the second and third quarter. 41 points in the first quarter was looking like it was going to be a monster. Windhager went to him. No surprise, but he still did it. He still managed to hit all the stat lines and kicked 2 goals too and missed a couple of set shots that normally Jordan Dawson would kick. So that could have been a little bit bigger. But hey, 126 is a great score to kick off the season. Probably gets the Redmond and Durham tag this week. But he did have Durham sitting next to him last year at the Adelaide Oval when he scored a 155. So, I'm not sure. I wonder if they'll be able to stop him, but he was fantastic. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he did put Marcus Windhager down behind the ball. It didn't sound like the commentator said anything. I didn't actually see it, so I don't know if there's necessarily anything to worry about if it was just a silly free kick. But, I'm hopeful that was the case.
Nothing. Taze, did you have a thought on that?
Yeah, just on Dawson, and it's actually something that made me think he's probably even going to be better this year, and I'm less concerned about the tag, was actually how good Soligo in particular looked, but and Rankin, like they were both so damaging. Soligo seemed to just be bursting out of the front of the stoppages, and I think actually that's why Ross Lyon took the tag off Dawson, was just because like they were shutting him down. But then Soligo and Rankin were just getting out of the front of stoppages and just drilling the ball into the forward line. So I think it's only a good thing for Crows if everyone else is firing, unlike other teams where you almost want your mid to be the only guy getting the ball. I think it's kind of, rising tide lifts all boats, and I think that's the case at the Crows.
Yeah, I agree. And the positive thing for Dawson, if you are an owner, and I guess the scary part if you're not an owner is he had the second most CBAs to Matt Crouch, who was by far the number one, but Dawson had 21 of 35, so 60% CBAs. But that's including as well having 8 in the last quarter, which was the most of any Crows players. So that was really positive, the fact that he played all of the CBAs pretty much in the last quarter. So very, very pleased with his first up performance. Moving to Melbourne and GWS. So obviously a little bit of wet weather was a big reason for this Taezer, but who's the player you want to be chatting about here?
Yeah, probably Sam Taylor. He was a pretty big play, and that wet weather game had a big influence. So, one of the things that saved my score just a little bit was I chose to have Sam Taylor but not play him in actually on field, because I just thought it was too volatile, and the game played out that way. I think he only had 2 intercept marks, and he had 9 the week before. And it's just because they were electing to go for the spoil because of the conditions, and then he didn't get involved in any of the chipping it around, switching, that kind of thing, because it didn't happen. So I was still in. I probably would stop short of saying I was impressed by Sam Taylor, but I wouldn't be disheartened by his 47, because I think if he plays a dry weather game, and he's coming up against the Hawks in round 3, who are quite a small forward line, and then West Coast in round 4, and West Coast at times look to be playing really direct, bombing it into the forward line. And I saw Sam Collins got a few intercept marks, and so did Ballard before he hurt his ankle. So, I'm not necessarily jumping straight off Sam Taylor. He's made money, and I may still do it if it helps me get, another problem player, up to a player that I want. But I'd be happy to just sit him on my pine, give me a loop, and then have another go at the cash rise the following week.
Yeah, exactly. I think when we see what his break even is, that's probably going to be a big thing if we trade him or not. But as you said, you get to if you hold him this week, you get to loop between a couple of guys on the bench, and you can see what happens. So, yep, don't mind it. Jordox, you're going to be talking about a guy that I owned last year, and it was a bit of a roller coaster, but he looked bloody good today.
Yeah, Toby Green. I mean, what a captain he is of that football club. Won them the game in that last quarter. Was huge. He, for anyone who's played for more than 4 or 5 years, you'll remember there was a time where if there was even just the slightest hint of Toby Green playing midfield, get him in your teams. Now we're a fair few years removed from that, but the last couple of weeks, and particularly today in that last quarter, he went into the midfield and scored huge. And I don't know, he had 98% time on ground as well, which is very impressive. I'm not saying he might be someone we'd target. It's maybe more one for drafts, but I don't know. Just keep an eye on it. That's all I'll say.
I fully agree with that. And I was going to say that obviously people look at Toby Green and go about all the suspensions and everything like that, but his gas tank is very, very impressive. The fact that he played 100% TOG in the first, third, and fourth quarter and played midfield in that last quarter, particularly to try and win them the game, that's something I don't think that gets talked about enough with Toby Green. So 100% agree. He's definitely someone we got to keep an eye on.
That was a tough game with a lot of repeat stoppages as well.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And he kicked 3 goals, 3, right? If he another day kicks 5 goals, 1, and you're looking at a 120, 130. So, yeah, definitely agree with that. Pyre, I want to chat about is Xavier Lindsay. So, someone that, shout out to Dylan Alexander, who was on with us a few weeks ago when we chatted about some rookies, and even Fry when we chatted to him. Both of them said that Lindsay's a good rookie to look at. And unfortunately, I didn't have him because I went down to Hasty, which gave me the money to have Sam Taylor on the bench. And yeah, I think that he's definitely someone we need to be looking at. Scoring 94, that would have been a lot bigger if not for the conditions, I feel. I think that the conditions meant that obviously that those +6s and that weren't there. But the fact that he got the 6 tackles, he looked good on a wing and at the MCG, I think that's going to suit someone like a Lindsay right down to a T. And his role is pretty secure on that wing. So he is one of the guys that is a must-have. If you guys had to choose, I want to see what you guys would think. If you guys didn't have Ashcroft or Lindsay, you'd only get one, who would you pick out of the 2, Taezer?
I'd probably play the break-even game and get Lindsay just because he'll shoot up faster. But yeah, they're both pretty important.
Yeah, agree. Jordox?
I'd like to watch some footage from the games. I mean, it looked like Ashcroft had a big last quarter when Brisbane came back and won. I feel like he's more impactful. I reckon he's probably the better pick just.
Yeah.
I will just add with Lindsay that because it was a wet weather game, there was a lot of times when the ball was stuck on Lindsay's wing. And I mean, he was good. He earned every point that he got, but it was just one of those circumstances where the ball was near him a lot. And you'll probably find, I haven't even looked, but I would imagine that Ed Langdon's wing was probably the cold wing at times. He probably had a down score, while Lindsay had a good score. So I'd just keep that in mind that, they're not going to have wet weather games all the time. And I wouldn't be going in expecting 90 odds every week.
Yeah. And isn't that just a typical coach thing in the preseason? We'll go, Ed Langdon. We'll talk about in the preseason about getting midfield and playing midfield. Round 1 CBA for the game. Can you believe it? Like, Petrarca cleared, him and Oliver were the main 2, and Viney as well. They were the main 3. Then you had Sparrow, Rivers had some as well. Like, Sparrow hadn't had any CBAs at all, but he was back in there. Rivers had a few and looked all right. And then you had Harvey Langford had a couple when he came on. So it's just typical sort of a coach thing to do with that one there. Moving on to the final game, though, West Coast and Gold Coast. So, Taezer, you wanted to chat. Who did you want to chat about from this game?
Probably the main thing I wanted to touch on with the West Coast is that they're I think they're going to be a bit of a soft kill this year. They weren't running any tags really. Jack Graham did man up a bit at stoppages, but like there's no hard tags, and the Wits got a pretty big score in quite a dry game. Still managed to get 125, and the mids all seem to do okay. Anderson and Rowell and Miller. So I would probably look captains versus West Coast.
Yeah, and plays them this week, Brisbane. So if anyone was looking at trading Will Ashcroft, definitely do not do that.
Not this week.
Yeah, not exactly. And Levi Ashcroft as well could have a big day. And if they're up by a bit, they may even give him some CBAs as well. Because I think with the injury to guys like Lohman, who might be out for a bit, Starcevich concussion, I think that he's probably in the 22 now with a few injuries. Cameron will come back in. But yeah, definitely something to be watching there with Wits as well, with 68 hitouts is pretty high. Jordox, your player, you're keen on this guy throughout the preseason. But what do you think of Jack Graham?
Yeah, he didn't get much love in preseason. I was a bit surprised, but he did great. I mean, he led the way for CBAs, laid 10 tackles, scored just a pinch under 100, I think, 97. Nothing to get too excited about, but pretty safe pick, I reckon. If you did it, you'd be pretty happy for the price.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. And when you look at the CBAs,
if you wanted to. Sorry, I was just going to say, if you want to get off Riley Sanders, I reckon he's a really good shout to go to.
Yep. Yeah. No, exactly. You'll make a tiny bit. Actually, no, you have to spend a little bit of money there. But he was number one CBA guy. He had 22 CBAs. Reed had 21. Tim Kelly had 21. Then they had a few other guys there as well. So, Duggan was also ruled out. He was the only guy I could feel that would run with anyone. I think he ran with the Dawson in their game last year and ran with a couple of others. But yeah, I agree that West Coast could be a bit of a soft kill this year. And the player I want to chat about, Noah Anderson, took full advantage of that. 117. The reason I'm happy about this is the fact that it was away from home, which is the big thing that everyone was flagging preseason, that his scoring away from home was really bad. I know it was against West Coast, but he still put up 117 points, which was really good to see. I think with the captaincy, that's going to give him that added responsibility, particularly away from home when they're going to someone else's home ground trying to get a win, because Gold Coast obviously trying to make finals for the first time in their history. I think Anderson could have a big year and definitely started off really well. And I believe he's back at home in round 2. He's got a bye. Sorry, that's why we weren't saying. But he could be a good target after his bye. They are away against Melbourne, but then they're home to our Crows Jordox in round 4. So, but Noah Anderson definitely is someone that we could be looking at targeting. So just quickly before we answer a couple of questions here, I want to get you guys to give me your top 3 trade targets, which is quite difficult because I think it is going to be a very, shout out Benny Monk for this, but team dependent this week and who's failed for you. But Taezer, if you had to pick 3 players that people were looking at and that would be targeting, who would be your 3?
My 3 would probably be getting the rookies fixed. So Lindsay, Ashcroft. If you didn't get Max Hall, I know he was fairly lowly owned, and he looked like one of the few Saints who actually played all right. So I'd probably be fixing up, looking there, and then looking at which line you've got to fix. Jack Graham, I think, is a really good shout to fix up, to go to. He's got the role, and if he can get 90 odd in a loss, in probably an 80-point loss or however much they lost by, then I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. Jordox, your 3?
The 3, I mean, I don't know. Who was the West Coast ruck that played at R3?
Archie Reid.
Archie Reid, that's right. I was looking it up, but I was spelling his name wrong. How'd he go in the end? He didn't do it much,
10,
did he?
the 10 CBAs and scored, what did he get? 32. And that was the reason I wasn't big on him. If we didn't have Harry Boyd, there was one that we didn't touch on, actually, by the way, which I'll touch on in a sec as well. But
well, that's who I was going to say, Bales. If you didn't get Boyd at R3, I think you probably need to, whether it's at R3 or in utility, because, you know, as we saw today, he was the number one ruck at St Kilda. Marshall went forward and then got injured. I haven't heard anything about the injury. He had ice on his knee at the end of the game, Marshall. So if Marshall's out, Boyd is well and truly the, I don't know, he'd be the hottest kid, him and Lindsay and Ashcroft, I reckon. Yeah. A couple others. Oh, geez. I don't have a heap, I'll be honest. But probably for me, myself, De Conning in the ruck, I think that was an obvious miss there. And then, no, that's all I got. We'll go with 2. Sorry.
No, that's fine. The 3 for me, I think number 1 has to be Lindsay or Ashcroft. A lot of coaches would, some don't have both. Unfortunately, I'm one of those. But some coaches out there will just have not one. So I would just be targeting that one. I think 2 is probably someone like your De Koning or a Fraser, just in defence. They're going to make a lot of cash. And I think Fraser, for me, is the guy I'd go the 2. If you don't, obviously the one you don't have, I'd go there. And then the other one I like, I think Tom Powell is a good pick at just over 800. He'll be closer to 850, but his break-in will be low. He's got Melbourne next week, so a decent enough matchup there. And yeah, I think he could be really good there. And as you mentioned, Jordox, Harry Boyd's is one there. Max Hall's another good one. Jack Graham obviously is one as well. People probably going to say, do I bring in Dawson? Do I bring in these guys? I think you had to start with these guys. I wouldn't be paying up for these guys as good as they are. They are going to have games where they will score a little bit lower, and you might have a guy that will score a bit higher. So yeah, just targeting value is definitely the key. But Jordan,
never would be my 3rd. Never.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very, very good pick. Yeah, exactly. Garcia never, as I said before, is probably going to be a pretty popular trade. But yeah, you mentioned Boyd though. Ryan Marshall, obviously went off injured. I don't know if it was more precautionary just because of the way the game was in the last quarter, but forward status in round 6, we could be having him there. But to be fair, he did look quite underdone. He definitely did a lot that Marshall that we're used to, playing a lot forward, but he did look like someone that had at least a month and a bit off. So yeah, it's definitely someone to watch. He's gonna plummet in price, and he's definitely someone that we could be looking at, especially if he gets forward status. Could you imagine that is going to be a guy we're going to be pretty much locking into our teams at some point? So, but yeah, we'll go through a couple of questions just before we finish up. Just on
Harry. Sorry, just on Harry Boyd. I reckon it could be a play for anyone who's got a ruck that they're not happy with. So if you went Meek, or if you went Darcy Cameron, or any of those guys, I wouldn't be afraid to kind of go straight down to Harry Boyd or some kind of play that puts him on field, and ride that for a little while, because we're about to hit 3 weeks of best 18 anyway. So yeah, I think that could be a play. I'm pretty happy with my rucks, but if you're not happy with yours, why not?
Yeah. Jordox. Meek? Not happy with him?
No. Well, we'll have a chat this week, me and Meek. We'll see. But he's up against De Conning Friday night, so I think they'll both do well. Right. But I like that, Taezer. Bit of Riley O'Brien 2019 vibes, hey?
Yeah. Exactly. First one here's from Red Lighting. He's saying, did Ned Long take a lot of Perryman CBAs and fantasy score? Because WTF, trades currently looking like Perryman to De Koning and Hasty to Lindsay. That was one thing we probably didn't touch on that Collingwood game. Another one of these coaches that is just decides to throw a complete spanner. Ned Long, who has long been a sub and wasn't in the best 22, all of a sudden is their number 1 CBA attendee for the game. And then Nick Dacos, and still Sidebottom was the next closest. So I think Perryman, I think his CBAs do take a bump back up. I think it was purely with the maybe Horn Francis tag and a bit of half back as well. But it is something to watch. And I feel like he's the guy that's a bit of a free hit. We look this week, he's got the buy in round 3. If he fails this week, we trade him in round 3. I think it's a pretty easy swap. But yeah, he's definitely someone. If he had no issues, I would not be afraid to pull the trade and trade him this week. Red lighting also this one, Nevitt or O'Driscoll, Taezer. If you had to pick one, who'd you be picking? Because your boy O'Driscoll looked pretty good.
Yeah, I'd probably go with O'Driscoll, and I did go with O'Driscoll. I don't think Nevitt's going to score 100 and whatever it was, 103 off 68% game time every week, especially when Geelong's running so many mids through the mix. Like if you have a look at the CBA breakdown, they had about 6 guys or 7 guys could do over 10 CBAs. So I still think he's a good pick, but and mostly because of his cash rise. But I think Nathan O'Driscoll, he's really entrenched in that side. He was the 3rd CBA, which I didn't see coming. I thought he was going to play more wing, and they like him. They backed him. He scored well. He scored quite well in a game Freo got absolutely obliterated in. So if you think Freo's probably going to somewhat bounce back, I think O'Driscoll's probably a better long-term play.
Yep. I would agree with that as well. Yeah, the fact that he 3rd CBA behind Brayshaw and Strong was very surprising. So, and with Young being out, I think that's going to be something that they're going to continue to use as well. So I like it for sure. Sydney this week, not great, but he's got some decent matchups after. Jeff Stevens says, Bales, I'm ranked 22nd with 22.42 this week. That's massive. I don't know anything about fantasy. I just follow your advice. I'm deadly serious. If you want my login details to try and win the car or stay up there, let me know. Jeff, I very, very much appreciate it, but I want to get a hat by me getting a hat and getting like my starting team. So Jeff, stay with it. I'd be listening to every podcast you can, getting into fantasy seriously, being ranked 22nd, obviously massive week. So yeah, but I appreciate the offer though, but I'll have to kindly decline just so because I for my own ego as well, I need to get my own team into the top 100. RBL Mobro says apparently Lockout.
Who wrote that? Who wrote that question?
Jeff Stevens.
Who did that question? Jeff Stevens. Jeff, just send me a message, mate.
Oh, love it. RBL Mobro says apparently Lockout's lifted tomorrow. Yes, if you guys didn't see the Warn Dog tweeted out that Lockout will be tomorrow. So Monday for anyone listening on the podcast will be then. And that normally happens on the first round. That takes a little bit longer for all the price change and stuff with the opening round stuff as well. So yeah, tomorrow, unfortunately, no rage trades for us on the Sunday night, but yeah, tomorrow. Brendan Wide, Jordox. Jack Silvani was one we didn't chat about in the Carlton game. Scored was it 94? 93, sorry. Looked good. Played in defence. Went forward late, but that we don't mind that. I guess it was almost like the Sicily role in a way, going forward late. What are your thoughts on him? Who you be under 500k still? Could he be someone that you look at for Hugo Garcia?
He's frozen.
Oh, he's frozen. Yeah, I think we might have lost him. Jordox, you might have to jump back out and back in, I reckon. So, Taezer, what are your thoughts about Silvani, maybe, if people are looking to get off Garcia?
Yeah, I thought he played really well. It's impressive. That intercept marking was pretty good. It's probably not the kind of player that I target, more so the role. So it's definitely a play, and especially if you're trying to fix up, if you've got a Sanders or a Hugo Garcia that you're really not happy with, then definitely a play. But I think there are other players around that price that you could probably go for first.
Yeah, exactly. Well, talking about Hugo Garcia though, so scored the 59, had a good last quarter to get that score as well. So was the top scoring St Kilda player with 29 points. So that's half his score in the last quarter. Do you see that as a negative because the game was over and they were playing in there, or do you see as a positive that he was able to at least get himself into the game and might get some, I guess, more responsibility next week? Because he still had the role, he still had CBAs, but I guess they were a little bit lower than what we're expecting.
Oh, look, I'd be wanting to stay away from that St Kilda side for the most part. They're looking really bad. They struggle to get scores, a lot of players, and I'd be trying to get rid of them as soon as possible. Yeah,
I think I agree. It's a bit of a worry, and yeah, definitely someone I might be looking at trading this week. What do we got? So CPT Moonlight, Jordox, if you're back with us, is Sardis to Nevitt and Taylor to SDK. What are your thoughts on those two trades? I think he's frozen again.
I like him, Bales.
Yeah, I'll tick down.
I can hear you. All right. I like the trade. I like it. Sorry, guys.
Oh, Jordox, that Melbourne internet, mate, must not be
makes sense.
Not be good. Oh, mate, yeah, mate, you have to.
I got a few more minutes left, I reckon.
Yeah. No, we'll do a couple more questions and we'll wrap up. So, next one we'll go to is a few people asking about Sam Lawler. Where would you have him in sort of the rookies? Jordox, if you're still with us, where would you put him? Is he behind? He's obviously behind Ashcroft and Lindsay, but is he maybe third? Would you have maybe Camperelli if you don't have him, maybe ahead of him? Where would you?
Ahead of Camperelli. I know he was great, but what I saw from Lawler, he's going to play every week, and he was brilliant. He's only going to get better. Yeah,
exactly. Tim Ashworth put another super chat in. So
did anyone hear that?
Yes, we did. Yep.
This is
hilarious. Tim Ashworth put a super chat in saying, I'm not sure who the first player is, but Perryman, Taylor, English out. I don't think I'll be trading English out, Tim. I think Perryman can go if he's probably a low priority, but can go. Garcia can go, and Sam Taylor, obviously, depending on your team, can go as well. And he also asked, who would you trade Garcia to? Taezer is never, I guess, the easy play for you. Is he the guy that you'd be looking at from a Garcia?
Yeah, depends where which line you've got him in. If you've got him in the forwards, I'd be seeing if I can play around with my trades to get Garcia up to maybe Will Graham or something like that. If you're having to go sideways or down, that's when I'll be starting to have a look at Silvani or possibly just going all the way down to Maxwell, and then maybe an upgrade on the other end.
Yeah, agree. Final couple. Henry V said Murphy Reed a sneaky one to look out for. I would say no, because he was great, and I would be shocked if he did not get the Rising Star. He kicked 4 goals in 5 minutes and had a 57, I believe, point third quarter. For the rest of the game, he didn't score much. Third quarter, he had 58 points. He scored 11 points for the remainder of the game. So I would be steering clear of him. He was great, but not for fantasy. Taezer, you're the Freo guy. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, love the bloke, but I'm not going near him.
Yeah, he was good, but yes, agree. Dill Jones, he says Rankin's his number one trading target this week. Jordox, what do you think about bringing in an Isaac Rankin?
Yeah, I think he looked great. The Crows obviously dominated, but he looked really good early, just a lot of handballs. And then as the game went on, he got more and he kicked his goals. So, yeah, I'd be pretty happy to recommend him as a trade-in. Just don't expect tons every week.
Yeah, exactly. Lucas Martin's also saying I can have his login details. Is he saying that he says he's number one ranked right now? Is that is he? Yeah, Luke. Yeah, so we got the number one ranked coach from the week, Lucas Martin, saying, "Bales, I'm number one ranked right now. Have no clue what to do. My first year of fantasy. I just take your advice. So congrats, you're number one ranked. Also, dead serious. You want my login details to try and win a car or something." Again, I appreciate it, and congrats on finishing number one. and thank you for saying you listened to my advice. That's now 2 people. So maybe my advice isn't shithouse, and maybe it is actually good advice. But no, appreciate it. But you stay with your team. I need to get my hat myself, but appreciate it, and hopefully you can get a hat of your own, mate. Interesting. I wonder if we'll get any more people asking, saying they can have their login details. We'll go 2 more. So Jack says, talk Clayton Oliver, please. So Jordox scored the 84 today. What were your thoughts with his game?
And he's gone. I watched Clayton Oliver pretty intently. He actually played quite well. he had 4 free kicks against, and I think 2 of them were for tackles that maybe went a little bit high or that kind of thing. So that score could have easily been 100. I wouldn't jump off him. He was also tagged at times. So when Bedford went to Petrarca, but when Petrarca went forward, Oliver got the tag. So yeah, I wouldn't be scared of him.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think he was fine. And we talked about this as well in the preseason, that this was his toughest game now for the next 6 weeks. He's got North Melbourne, Gold Coast, Geelong, Essendon, Fremantle, Richmond, West Coast. So very nice run coming for Clayton Oliver. I think he looked pretty good. Just a lower score. I think he'll be fine. We know the Giants are a tough matchup. I think we do have Jordox back properly now, not just a hoping that he's back. So I'll ask Jordox 2 quick ones. Yep. Okay. I think, therefore, I slam says Camporelli a must get. Where would you rank Camporelli out of the rookies, Jordox? Is he probably 3rd behind Lindsay and Ashcroft for you?
Now, behind Boyd, I love Camporelli. Blues are going to do something different.
Yeah.
But he's still a target. Not as much as the others.
Yeah, great. And I'll go to the final question to Taezer for this one. MMA fan says, thoughts on Wicks down to Lindsay and Sam Taylor up to SDK?
Yeah, love it. Good trading.
Your thoughts on trading a Wicks down? Obviously, he only got the 40-odd. He was looking good at halftime, but really didn't do much in the second half. You'd be fine trading him out?
Yeah. Yep. Get rid of him.
Yeah, agreed. And then actually, Crinkly Cut says, is Ash must trade? Are you trading Ash Taezer?
Yeah, at his buy. I didn't jump on because I thought that last week was a pop score. And I think it proved that it was a pop score. He's made a little bit of cash. Take it, run, but don't stay on. Get off at the buy.
Yeah. 2 ones here. Henry V. Bailey, I started Sam Draper. You can have my team. And Kobe Pemba, I'm ranked top 16K. You can have my team for $5.99. Oh, this is unbelievable. I'm getting off at everyone's team here.
Buzz, can I hit a couple quickly?
Yeah, yep.
Play on Footy says, Jordox, are you going to trade out Walsh? No, I'm not going to. And then someone asked down here, Jordan, why did you move to Melbourne? That's Tim Ashworth. I've always lived in Melbourne, so I don't know why you're asking that, but I thought I'd get them in there. All right, let's wrap this up, Bales. Before
we have to. It's been a long one, obviously, for round one, but we have to because Jordox's internet is crashing out, and it has been for 10, 15 minutes. But Taezer, mate,
can I just say I've got family staying with me. There's 9 people in my house, and I reckon they're all using the internet right now. So.
Oh, mate, yes, we will wrap up. But as we always do, obviously the game's not open, but Taezer, rage trades as of Sunday night, or trades you're going to be looking at doing. What are you looking at this moment in time without seeing price rises and everything?
Yeah, Xavier Lindsay's on my radar. I've got to get him. And, possibly Jack Graham. But defense is quite a kind of a weak lineup. Got a bit of soul searching to do, but definitely one of them is going to be Xavier Lindsay. Yeah,
agreed. Ball Boys for AFL Fantasy coming in here. So I wonder if that's Mitch or Luke saying, you want my team, mate? I'm already cooked after round 1. And funny enough, I don't know who that is because unfortunately you boys both didn't have great weeks. So definitely I'll be tuning in to the podcast tomorrow to see what you guys have to say after round 1. But yeah, Jordox, mate, what are your current rage trades?
Probably first one has to be Optus out, Telstra in. So I'll look at that tomorrow. And then for fantasy, I've got to get Lindsay in and then probably fix up R2. I don't know though. We'll see.
Yeah, my trades really, unfortunately, I've got to get Levi Ashcroft and Xavier Lindsay in. I think they're the 2 must, which is annoying. Means no TDK, no SDK, no Powell, no Nevitt. Couple of others that I'd be keen on. But I guess it's another week to watch these mid-price guys and see if they can go again. But no, I think Levi Ashcroft and Xavier Lindsay, I've got to get those 2 in. They're the guys that are going to make a lot of cash. So I'm looking at probably like a a Wicks down to a Lindsay, and I'm hoping I can go, Wicks down to Ashcroft. I'm hoping I'd have enough cash to go Hasty up to Lindsay. That would be ideal. But if not, I might have to go maybe Garcia out as well just to get these moves done. So we'll see how we go. But that'll be it. That'll wrap us up. If you want any other questions answered, though, head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics to get all your questions answered there. And our first Monday night Patreon live stream will be tomorrow night as well. So if you want to get involved there as well, make sure you head across. Links is in the description below. But Taezer, mate, thank you very much for jumping on and making your podcast debut, mate. It's been a pleasure and really enjoyed having you on. I'm sure we'll get you on again in the near future, mate. But where can the people find you across the socials, and any plans coming up, either content-wise or just on Twitter, coming up in the near future?
Look, at the moment, I'm just kind of happy listening to you guys and listening to all the great content. You can find me at Taezer87, and just trying to improve my team and maybe get towards that hat territory one day.
Yep, exactly, mate. No, thank you very much for jumping on. It's been a pleasure, mate. Jordox, where can the people find you? And anything else you want to plug? I'm sure you're going to plug the subs and late changes page, which has cracked 2K followers, which is fantastic, and also Finders Keepers.
Yes. Very busy times for Jordox. So I'm on X at Jordox 2020. Finders Keepers is a podcast I started this year that focuses on the strategy around keeper leagues and dynasty leagues. So anyone listening who plays in the keeper league, come and check it out. Finders Keepers. We're on X at FindKeepAFL. And obviously, first episode coming out on Tuesday we've done the preseason and then the first in-season looking at round one. And then lastly, at AFL Subs is another handle on X that I have, and that is exploded in popularity, and it's just brilliant to see. So basically, find the page, like it, turn your notifications on, and then every week, an hour before the bounce of a game, you're going to get the subs straight to your phone. And the page doesn't post anything else. It's only the sub. So there's the only notification you'll get. Come check it out. And sorry for the internet.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure people would have got a bit of a laugh with the internet over the last bit of the pod. But no, definitely go and follow AFL Subs and turn notifications on, because then you don't have to open any app or anything like that. You get the subs and everything straight to your phone. It's fantastic. Make sure you do that. You can find me at BAILSDT, and you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans across, on Twitter. Make sure you guys also join our Facebook page, AFL Fantasy Fanatics, there as well. Just answer the 3 questions, and I'll be able to let you in, and you can get involved with all the chat in there as well. We're back on Tuesday night for our normal Q&A as always. So make sure you guys, tune in, get any questions you guys have answered. Lockout will be lifted, I would hope, by then. And then we can answer all your questions and everything like that. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you had a good round one, and looking forward to a lot more footy to come. So thanks guys, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks everyone. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.